Welcome to the Connected Teamwork Podcast by Growth Leaders Network. How do we learn to truly thrive together? How do we stay connected to our authentic selves, each other, and our purpose as a team, especially when challenged? How do we unlock the deeper levels of group intelligence? Enjoy this episode of the Connected Teamwork Podcast and learn practical tools to evolve the connectedness of your team to its next level.
Well, welcome back to the Connected Teamwork Podcast, where we help leaders and team connect more deeply to themselves, each other, and their purpose. I'm your host, Hilke Faber, and today I'm delighted to be here together with Joel Klemmer. Joel, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, before we know more about Joel, I'll introduce you in a second a bit more. I want to say a few words about the Connected Teamwork Podcast. On this day, which is an interesting day with the eclipse in parts of the world, the sun eclipse, the moon eclipse of the sun. And the eclipse reminds me of why we're doing this podcast. Connected Teamwork is all about helping people to get more clear about what it means to be truly connected to what's most important to you, which sometimes can be, you could say, eclipsed by or overshadowed by things that actually get in the way of us truly working well together, of us truly finding meaning, of us finding a sense of being enough, and at the same time, this sense of high ambition and enjoying this journey together of traveling together in a team. Teams are such a beautiful place for us to invent ourselves, to grow, to contribute, to get to know each other. And many of us spend many days of our working lives in teams. So how can we do that in the best possible way? And today we're going to learn from a beautiful leader with a very beautiful background. The first time I was connected to Joel Klemmer, I was struck by his gravitas and commitment. He is an influential author and leader. He has a book out called Strategic Synergy, Mastering the Art of Leadership in the Modern Business World, where he's very much focused on the importance of synergy within organizational structures. He has managed small to multi-billion-dollar portfolios. He's led teams from small groups to division-wide. He's executed in-person, hybrid, remote, all with a lot of impact. He has a lot of expertise and proven track record in strategic leadership, operational efficiency, and financial acumen across various sectors and environments. And he is very accomplished in also revising team processes for maximum efficiency and effectiveness. I'm very happy to have you on the show today, Joel. So first question to dive into this conversation today is tell us more about what you have learned in your life and career so far about truly building connected teams.
No, absolutely. And thank you for having me. One approach that consistently yielded positive results is prioritizing open communication, really creating an environment where every team member feels heard, valued, essentially fostering a culture of transparency, respect, empathy, and that's really kind of laid the groundwork for building strong bonds and fostering a sense of belonging. With that said, I remember I was 18 years old. I was working for a retailer as a newly promoted manager. I did not know what I was doing, and in all honesty, I did make a lot of mistakes. But one thing I did absolutely right was create an environment that communicated. We valued each member and had a vision to be the best. And I can say that team not only became the best in the district, but the best in the region and one of the best in the nations. And that was 8,000 stores. I would say another example is the significant challenge that the team faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. The transition to remote work,
Mm.
it posed a significant challenge, especially maintaining connectivity and collaboration. And so we had to leverage digital platforms, virtual meetings, implementing regular check-ins, and prioritizing open dialogue to ensure that the team members felt supported and connected despite the physical distance. And during that time, I held a critical leadership position that oversaw a 8-state area of responsibility. And at the time, we were executing just over $1 billion each year. And I could tell you that organization did not want to adapt to a virtual environment, at least
Mm.
at first. And so there was a lack of empathy towards the employees. It caused turnover, a lack of morale, and definitely affected the operations. But I strongly advocated for remote positions within the team. And it created an environment that adapted to the situation. And we did implement remote work in the office. And overall, it reaped such a great return on investment.
Mm.
One of the challenges is typically the employees would go to site visits across the area of responsibility, and being virtual didn't always allow the employees to travel. So, through training, communicating with managers on the field, and allowing access to tools such as Teams and Outlooks, we created virtually teams, and increased the communication, essentially overcoming the challenges.
Mm.
Now, with that, or part of that was um, consistently requesting a 360 feedback, not only
Mm.
for myself, but how the virtual environment was going. I wanted to know how they were doing and what vision they had for themselves and the organization. And it was a huge success. That year, several of the team members, and our group as a whole was nominated for Global Organization Awards. And
Mm.
so a lot of the employees went on to higher positions and implemented those successes within their organization. So
Mm.
I would say ultimately, uh, especially in these times with uncertainty and change, just prioritizing the communication and empathy, it becomes paramount.
Yeah.
So, just maintaining open lines of communication and actively listening to their concerns and feedback of the team members, demonstrating the empathy and understanding, just essentially creating that trust with resilience that enables us to navigate the challenges.
I hear in you, what you're sharing so much, Joel. This emphasis on transparency and open communication, in which like I hear you've been very deliberate in that, all the way from age 18 when you had this assistant manager position to like recently where you're managing many people across states with billions of dollars of responsibility. So tell me about that 360, like putting out that 360 and give you and getting feedback from people about how is hybrid for you? How am I leading you as hybrid? What are some of the things you learned from that feedback, from those 360s? Because I can imagine that you may have heard some things you did not expect, since hybrid and those things are for many of us still quite new, because the pandemic, for many people, it started there, is still quite a recent phenomenon. So what were some of the things you learned that might have been somewhat surprising?
It's really the humility. And so I think a lot of times we'll ask our, someone that's a higher level, what can I do to be better?
Mm.
And then that's really where it stops. And so a lot of times it's looking at peers, and being a leader, sometimes that can be more difficult to do, since there may not be as many peers, and with schedules it can be challenging.
Mhm.
But taking the time and asking the questions of what can I do different? What do you see from your side of the fence. And then the most important is to look down. One of the tools that I use is what I call brown bags. And it wasn't something that I created. It was another great leader that did it for me. And it was taking out the leadership, taking out first line and second line and third line managers. It's talking to everyone and seeing what are the problems you see. If you could manage me, what do you see that I could change?
Yeah.
And
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. How I hear so much humility in that. That is an overarching theme as well, Joel. In those brown bags, how do you help people to actually speak up, especially as you show up there as the more senior person? How do you help people to actually say what they're actually thinking as opposed to what's safe and might get them a few points in the race?
no, absolutely. And what it does is it creates, from the peer standpoint, you can see best practices or maybe something that worked for them. And from the down, you see where the bottlenecks are. You find out, your own inefficiencies, or maybe things that was a tool to report, but you don't realize how much time that report's actually taking. And so it allowed us to overcome the challenges, and at the same time, they feel valued, but you're working towards your own purpose as well.
Great meeting of actually what you both care about. You meet your goal as a leader to create forward momentum and create cohesion, and people get their concerns addressed. Beautiful example. So tell me about a team, Joel, where you felt like there was disconnection, and how you worked with that. So can you tell us about an experience where there was some kind of disconnection, whether it's you from the team or between team members or between the team and other teams? And how did you work with that? And what did you learn from it? Can you tell us about that?
No, absolutely. I remember in leading that area of responsibility, when I first came in, there was a mass exodus prior to, and a lot of the policies in place were disregarded. And so going in, it was trying to first get a pulse of where that team was at. It was having individual discussions and talking with the customers and the vendors, and trying to get just an understanding of where each and every individual was. Then it was creating the vision, and the vision was, we are going to go through the forming, norming, storming, and we're going to perform. And to do that, we're going to have a vision to do things right, to do things ethical, to care about each other, to be able to communicate, and not necessarily say this is a family, but on a professional sense, we care about each other and truly care. I always had mentioned, this may not be your final stop. It may not even be a job that you truly want. But if you could communicate your career and where you're looking to go, we could find those attributes to help you get there. And in the same way, we'll be able to get some productivity and output as well. And so just kind of taking the vision and allowing them to use their goals to carry forth. And it was ultimately extremely successful. I would say another part of that was through a lot of division. So there was different areas throughout the world that were trying to do the same thing. And so meeting with them and getting their best practice and meeting them in the middle and seeing where are they looking at their perspective and seeing a little bit of their challenges and their successes, and then just addressing those from our perspective, or maybe from other
Mm.
perspectives in other discussions.
Beautiful. I hear this word care that you mentioned earlier as one of the pillars and foundations for the vision of this team that you're set out to do. I hear you expressing that also very much in deeply listening to the people on the team, listening for their concerns, and also listening to the other teams, to their concerns, and working with that. We're going to take a short break in a moment. And when we come back, we're going to explore this idea of care more. Like, Joel, how have you experienced and created a culture, an atmosphere of care in the professional setting? What does that look like specifically? And also, how do you know when it's there, and how do you know when it's not there? So we've been talking with Joel Klemmer, a senior leader, an expert in strategy and in synergy, about how do you build truly connected teams, especially with an emphasis on deep listening to what people actually care about and addressing that with care. See you after this short break.
You are listening to the Connected Teamwork podcast by Growth Leaders Network. Do you want to learn more about building the next level of connectedness in your team? Please contact Growth Leaders Network on LinkedIn. And now, back to the show.
So welcome back to the Connected Teamwork podcast. We're talking to Joel Klemmer, senior leader, expert in synergy and many other things. And we've been talking about this idea of how do you truly build a team where we listen to each other and care. So Joel, say a bit more about care. Like, how have you created an environment of care, and when do you know it's there and when do you know it's not there?
Sure. I would say at the heart of it is a shared sense of purpose and direction. And so it's aligning team members around a common objective, compelling vision for the future, and really fostering a sense of unity, clarity, and alignment with the team. And part of that is that the team members have to understand their roles uh, and achieving the shared goals. Really inspire a collective vision. And to do that, I would say it's about effective communication, right? That's really the lifeblood of successful teamwork, facilitating, understanding, trust, collaboration, and communicating just open and transparent, empowering the team members to feel that they can share ideas and express concerns, collaborate towards objectives. So it's just promoting the culture of open dialogue, active listening, and constructive feedbacks, where leaders can break down the barriers, foster trust, and just create a supportive environment where ideas flourish and innovation thrives.
I love that you're saying communication is the lifeblood of effective teamwork. I think that's a t-shirt. And with that, the sense of it includes constructive feedback, the assertiveness of that, and deep listening. So tell us a little bit about this, Joel. When have you received constructive feedback that was hard for you to listen to, and how did you work through that? How did you think about when have you received constructive feedback, and how did you work with that?
One of the, I guess, keys that has allowed me to be successful is just allowing feedback and wanting feedback. So to say it wasn't received, I if there's anyone that can help me be a better person, I think it's so important because we're on this continuous improvement path. I can remember a time And I believe I was in my early 20s. I had a mentor, and he was a leader of a church. And we were walking together in a park. And he said, "Look at the ducks." And then we're looking at ducks. And he said, "They're just floating on the water. And they're so graceful and so peaceful." But then he said, "If you look underneath the water, they are swimming frantically." And he challenged me. He said, "Be the duck." And he also said, "If you notice, when it rains out, water just rolls on off, and there will be sunny days." And that really hit home, and something that I've held on to decades later is, you know, make sure you're cool, calm, collective when possible, but in the background, work
Mm,
hard for the team, work hard for the organization, and work hard for yourself, and realize when it gets tough and the tough times come, sometimes you have to roll it off, and that is challenging. I've been in some very, you know, challenging organizations that have pushed me, and just holding on to those words and putting them into action.
the calm, collected, mm, clear, wise duck outside, and at the same time working. There's work to be do. Let's say work to be done as we're paddling the feet in the water and whatever we might be doing. So very clear image, Joel. So how do you help others to get to that place where they are seeing feedback as one of the core ingredients of their success? How do you help others with that?
Uh, First, it's creating that safe place. It's empowering to share ideas, express concerns, and collaborate. As a leader, when we hear things that can be addressed, it's being the advocate.
Mm,
It's being that team leader where, maybe somebody had filled out a survey or communicated to their first line supervisor where there's issues. A lot of times, when you get into leadership, it's not heard. But if you create that environment where it's a safe place, someone can take initiatives and really contribute, uh, allowing them to be and empowering them to be leaders on the team themselves. And so it's
mm,
really creating that safe and supportive
mm,
space where team members can take risks and share ideas and challenge the status quo.
mm, mm. And how do you create that safe space?
A lot of it is through uh, communication, but part of it is through testing.
Mm,
What I've noticed is people are reluctant
mm,
because they don't feel safe or appreciated, and you can almost um, just have people feel valued.
mm,
I think one of the I would say that would be paramount to that would be having mutual respect
mm,
and trust,
mm,
but also recognition and appreciation. Just being appreciative of that person.
mm,
Another part would be creating a environment of autonomy and empowerment.
mhm,
Just allowing the professionals to be a professional,
mm.
and provide that culture of collaboration, inclusive inclusivity, and empowerment.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. The strong emphasis on appreciation and also the focus on autonomy and empowerment. Those things together help to create and contribute to a safe space. What have you noticed happens with people when they feel appreciated?
I mean, when you make an effort to celebrate achievements, acknowledge milestones, express gratitude. Um, even if they're not vocal,
Mm.
you can see the teams bolster morale.
Yeah.
You can see the enhanced motivation. You can see the stronger bonds. I had recently taken a position, but one of my previous employees was so excited to share their promotion and their contributions. They still had that bond, and I still to this day care, and hope they thrive, but
Yeah.
it's creating that environment.
Mm. Yes, yes. And if you're listening, I invite you to think about maybe somebody that you can appreciate and what that might do, especially those people where you may have somewhat of a more difficult relationship at work or in your home setting that are part of your broader sense of team. Like what happens when you truly appreciate them? I think there's always time for appreciation. Appreciation fits anytime, anywhere, anytime, anywhere. So we're getting towards the closing minutes of our conversation, Joel. What would you say to a leader, very practically, who is looking at a team that is quite disconnected? Where to start?
Number one, be a leader. Leadership is paramount in building, or in this case, rebuilding connectedness within teams. Effective leadership possess vision, empathy, integrity, and resilience, essentially principles in navigating team dynamics. And so the leaders must reflect on the long-term goals and aspiration of the team, and then articulate a clear vision and purpose that can inspire and mobilize team members towards that objective. But while doing that, it's active listening and empathy, forging through genuine understanding and empathy.
Mm.
I would also say you want to take a look at integrity and ethical leadership.
Mm.
I think ethical leadership is essential for trust and credibility. Leaders need to just examine their own ethical principles and values and making sure that they're aligned with honesty and transparency, ethical decision making, and really having a ethical code of conduct for their decisions.
Mm. Mm.
And then develop, resilience
Mm.
and coping strategies.
Mm.
Resilience is key to weathering the inevitable, which is
Yeah.
challenges and setbacks. It'll be encountered with all team dynamics.
Yeah.
And so we need to equip ourselves with coping strategies to navigate stress or also adversity, and just encourage other members to cultivate resilience and embracing that growth mindset and practicing self-care and seeking support when needed. And having that resilience and adaptability, you can empower the team members to really thrive
Yeah.
with the uncertainty.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Joel. This has been such a powerful conversation. I'm thinking about how do you create teams that are connected, and listening to you, Joel, I take away a lot also from how you're saying and how you're being about this ethical integrity, being very clear about vision, or what you're about, deep listening, and some other principles that you've been talking about those, and executing on those with resilience when the inevitables for the inevitable, because as you said, the inevitable is change, is challenge, and it's going to be here. Not whether it will happen, it's how do we respond to that. Joel, it's been a true pleasure to be with you today. Anything that you want to say by way of closing our conversation today?
I would say, just ensure that every voice is heard and valued. Encourage team members to share their perspective, ideas, and concerns, to foster a culture of inclusivity and respect.
Mm.
I think that in order to do that, you can breed open communication and you can bridge gaps, especially addressing conflicts, but essentially fostering stronger connections within the team.
Open communication, deep listening, the lifeblood of connected teams. Thank you so much, Joel. Joel Klemmer comes to us with a lot of experience in leadership, synergy, and a lot of other things that he's been sharing about in this Connected Teamwork podcast. In the Connected Teamwork podcast, you learn about how do you build connected teams. We're talking to leaders from all walks of life about that. And if you find this interesting, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And also you can find out more about Joel Klemmer on LinkedIn if you're interested in connecting with him. I'm sure he'd be welcoming that as well. And otherwise, connect with us, Growth Leaders Network. My name is Hilke Faber. We see you next time at the Connected Teamwork podcast, which happens almost every Monday. See you next time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Connected Teamwork podcast by Growth Leaders Network. Take a moment to reflect on what you learned today that can help build your team. Also, if you like, think about one of your team members and what you appreciate about them. Let them know. Enjoy connecting more deeply to what is great about them. And see you next time at the Connected Teamwork podcast.